All right. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me again. Super excited about continuing our conversation in the space of business process management, human resources, really focusing in, though, on the human aspects of change management. And as you know, this is one session in a series of sessions specifically around this topic, the human aspects of change management, effective change management. What does that look like? How do we optimize our teams when we're going through times of change? And also in the context of creating a continuous improvement organization, by definition, a continuous improvement organization or a culture that's dedicated to that actually is in continual change, right? So, for example, I was just with a team earlier this week down in San Diego. Awesome group. I love what they're doing. They're in the education space, and I just love what they're doing around their culture, the things that they're committed to, the resources that they've committed to their process improvement initiatives. And one of the team members shared during our session, shared that what her vision is for evidence of a continuous improvement environment is that people are always thinking about, how can I refine my processes? How can I deliver an improvement in my services? How can I change for purposes of improvement? How can I change the work that I'm doing? And they are always taking the time. And remember, it doesn't take a lot of time. We've talked about this in some of our prior certifications, but they're always taking the time to get to root cause, right? So the improvements that they are seeking ultimately really take hold. Well, back to our topic of change management, in the world of continuous improvement, people are always thinking in terms of, how can I change things? How can I improve things? How can I reach even more effectively toward an environment or toward a vision? And so they're really coming at it with that mindset of achieving a new state versus, I'm going to contrast it a little bit for you, versus acting as though something is wrong and needs to be fixed. So there's a very important distinction there. So continuous improvement environments, they are focused on a future state, and they are always open to and looking for the possibility where they can move things forward, AKA change. All right. So my name's Diana Willis. I'm the founder and CEO of the Pendolino Group. This session here is part of a series. For those of you who are joining us throughout the series, it'll be about a eight or nine session series. And for those of you who are joining us through the entire series, you will receive a certification from the Pendolino Group, our change management professional certification. And so I welcome you aboard for that. Really looking forward to supporting you in your continued professional development and providing everything that we can as a team and as an organization to help you be successful and to help you create the vision that you're going after. So for this session, as some of you know, if you've joined us in the past for these are what we call our SNAP webinars. I start out with a little bit of context. So let me go ahead and pick up this element as it relates to change starting at the top, okay? So for us, as we're laying out the sequence of managing effective change, in the prior session, what we focused on were different models for managing change. So it's kind of more of a theoretical space, if you will, ways that we can measure where we are on the context of change or on the waves of change, and also a model that helps us really think about this idea of continual change, continual improvement. So diving into it, we're going to start segmenting this now and looking at change from a variety of different ways. And I want you to take away some really important tools and tips to be able to systematically ensure that you are positioned to successfully manage this change, whatever the change is. So from that perspective, our first view is that change starts at the top. Or certainly if we are in an organization and we have been chartered with or have taken upon ourselves the responsibility for continuing to improve the organization, then where we need to start is with the people at the top of the organization. And here's why. So first of all, we want to make sure that we recognize that in any change, large or small, and so let's put a flag in that and just point out that there is no such thing as small change, big change. Change is change. And for some people, what may be a very minor shift to another person, right? For some people, that could be a big change for them. And so we really do ourselves a disservice if we try to start categorizing and say, oh, that's a small change. We don't need to worry about that one as much. No, it's a change. So let's put a flag right there. Change is change, period. Okay. With that, in an organization, when we are bringing about change, or when we are creating and we have an environment of continuous improvement, whatever's going on, all eyes are always going to turn to the CEO and the leadership team for a variety of reasons. One, we in organizations, by definition, we look to see what are the leaders doing? What makes sense? What behaviors are they advocating? What behaviors are they actually exhibiting? We'll talk about that in a second as well. So all eyes are going to turn to the CEO and the leadership team, and they're going to be turning there for strength, support, direction, validation, all of those elements, okay? So we've got to keep that in mind. We've got to position and support our leadership team, our CEO. We've got to support them to effectively lead the change. And in that, recognize that they are human too. So they are going to be going through the change just like everyone else, okay? From that standpoint, we want to help them be successful. As a change management professional, that is part of our responsibility. So what we're aiming for is that the leaders in the organization are embracing the new approaches first, okay? Our job as a change management professional is to help them be successful in that. Also to help them be successful in speaking with one voice and modeling the desired behavior. So the number one thing that we as change management professionals need to be able to do is build a powerful relationship with the leadership of the organization, with the CEO, with the CXO, with the next level of leadership in the organization. A powerful relationship is going to be one of those where we become the eyes and ears for them. We're able to see if their words are matching up with their actions. And if they're not, that we've developed a trustful relationship enough that we can point that out to them. And we can help them adjust their behavior to get back into alignment with their message, and or vice versa. Okay, so this is what we're going for. Now, I say and or vice versa. Keep in mind that the behaviors are what matter most. No matter what words they say, people are going to be watching their behavior. That's what's valued. So for us as change management professionals, this is the number one thing that we want to be focused on. What's the vision? And what's our relationship with the leadership of the organization in order to help them be successful and to coach them such that they become our most important leverage point for shifting the entire organization. If you have a CEO that just in their bones, they believe in this idea and what it is to be in a continuous environment, continuous improvement environment, they will exude that in their behavior. Now, if you have a CEO that says, yeah, that sounds good, that's what we want to do, we're not there today, that's what we want to do though, it's your job to coach them to get there, to demonstrate it, because they become your most important leverage point. Okay, have I driven that home enough? All right, so keep in mind, the reason we start at the top is because all eyes point there, and that leadership is also made up of a series of individuals. They have their own change to go through. And again, they may be advocating something for the organization that they yet themselves don't quite know what it looks like, how to behave that way. They need the coaching as well. That's our job. That's what we get to do as a change management professional. All right, so we're managing them as individuals. Again, what we're focused on, so I'm just going to go through this pretty quickly here so we can really lay this foundation and move forward. So what we're going after, I'm going to highlight a couple of key elements around the culture. What does that culture of continuous improvement look like where the leadership is leading that? What are we going after there, okay? A few best practices to share with you as well, and then I'm going to open it up for some questions. All right, so let's take a quick look. Let's start diving a little bit deeper into this now. So a framework for us. All right, starting at the top, we're working with individuals. And we're working with an organization, which is by definition a group of individuals. Isn't that awesome? Okay. So from here, the stronger your people skills, the stronger your people, your relationship skills, your influencing skills as a change management professional. I got to tell you, for me, I think that this profession around change management, that this is one of the most powerful professions that's out there. We lead by example. We lead through influence. We lead through the power and depth of the relationships that we're able to build. All right. We don't get the benefit necessarily of position authority. And yet we can affect such amazing change. So we're leveraging at the top first, right? So here's a framework in order to really get this going. First of all, we've got to get a clear message from the top. So that means in some cases, we've got to feed that information, feed that message to the senior leadership, give them the words, give them the vision, give them the tools. All right. We're coaching them. So what we're doing is we want from that senior leadership, we want the message to be coming through and cascading into the organization. What is the next future state? What does the next future state look like? Where are we headed next? Okay. And from that, now we're starting to align the leadership. So we're going to get that leadership with a clear message and understanding what the behaviors look like. We're going to keep practicing that and keep driving in there. Okay. So our job, be on point, keep the message clear, keep feeding the information into the message, and recognize that the leadership, that senior leadership, is going to be our leverage point. Okay, so what do you do if you don't have senior leadership that's ready to buy in? Well, remember, go back to our prior session. We were talking about change models. Every individual is going to go through those phases of understanding, of questioning how they personally fit in. So if you don't have your senior leadership buying in yet or making the shift, go back to that model and work with them. Where are they personally on that model? And trust me, man, when you get them through the curve, through that, what did we call it? The valley of death, right? When you get them through that, then boom, they are going to be leading this message for you. And now you get to nurture it and keep coaching and keep guiding, just keep nurturing it forward. They become that powerful voice. And with that, alignment is going to accelerate. You're going to bring alignment into the organization. People are going to start getting on board. Remember, they're watching our CEO, they're watching our leadership. So they're going to start getting on board. And as you get more and more alignment, the pace of change is just going to pick up. And before you know it, you will have created a culture of continuous improvement. You'll actually be able to step back and see it. All right. It will shift. And with that, now we can go into the space of monitoring, continuing to monitor, refine the path, keep evolving it, keep nurturing a culture of continuous improvement. Okay. Now, does this happen overnight? No. We are humans, remember? And so persistence is the next quality of a successful change management professional. Persistence, patience, deliberate action, coaching, influence. These are some of the really rich things that we get to do and how we get to be in our role. So let's keep that in front of us, okay? So that's a model. Now remember, last session, we took a look at a particular framework that helps us understand where an organization can be at any point in time. And this infinity illustration here really does point out that, in fact, continual change, continuous improvement is an environment where change is always present and it's intentionally created. And eventually it starts to take on a life of its own and people become incredibly comfortable in this. This becomes the new stability. All right. So what kinds of leadership skills are needed to effectively lead change? Because these are the things we want to understand. These are the things that we're going to be coaching our leaders on. All right. And which means, by definition, remember, we personally need to be demonstrating these things as well. That's how we affect change in the organization, is through our own demonstration. So first of all, we have to become comfortable with being in the spotlight. Our leaders need to understand they will be in the spotlight. And in many respects, for them personally and for you personally as a change management professional, it will feel at times like you're going out on the proverbial limb, right? You're out there in front and you may feel like you're out there alone. Guess what? People are watching, and some people are a lot closer than you may realize. And so this is the piece where there's courage. There has to be the courage to step out there on the limb, to advocate, to really be speaking in this space, okay? Also, there's the ability, what I call the ability to, quote, spin the message. Now, I know that term has some bad connotations, perhaps, but let's just put all that aside. What I'm going for here is that it's important to be able to say things like, yes, that's how we used to be, but here's how we're going to be in the future. That's the old me. Here's the new me. That's not who we are. This is who we are. All right. So that's what I'm talking about in spinning the message, right? To focus on what the future holds. Okay. And with that, it means that we also, as a strong leader, we need to be able to balance that message, the future state message, with empathy, understanding where people are today, understanding that they may have some fears, they may have some uncertainty, they may have some doubts, right? We get to coach them with that, right? Our leadership, we get to coach our leaders to effectively lead in this environment. So imagine you now are working with your CEO, and your CEO is really passionate about what the future holds or what's possible. They're very passionate about process improvement and continuous improvement, and they've seen what can be. And it's in their DNA. I mean, they're passionate about it, and they're frustrated because others, quote, just don't get it. All right. Well, where's the gap? That's, it's right in front of us here on the slide. Where's the gap? The gap is simply for that leader to be able to step back and see, oh, others may have some fear. They're uncertain. They're not sure what's in it for them. They've seen change before and don't know if this is just another program du jour, right? Can I trust? All right. As soon as your leader gets that, and you're coaching them to this, as soon as your leader can answer those two questions, what's the future hold, and what are some of the very real fears, uncertainties, doubts that people in the organization might be having, the leader can now start to close that. Through empathy, they can start to relate to it. Because here's what happens. The leader will also pretty quickly realize that they went through those same phases. They weren't necessarily born into a continuous improvement environment. They weren't didn't necessarily wake up one morning and then boom, all of a sudden I'm a change management agent, right? So they had to go through their own shift, and where they can relate their own shift to what others are going through, and they can communicate that authentically. They can stand by what they believe in, they can stand by their vision, and they can authentically say, hey, here's what I'm working through, or here's what I had to work through. Here were some of the fears that I had. Here are some of the uncertainties and doubts and questions that I had. And I got it. And look, I'm on the other side. Here's what's possible. It's okay. Come join me. Powerful, powerful, powerful leadership. That's what we're looking for. That's what you get to coach. That's what you get to create as a change management professional, to create that in other people. All right. So as we talked about in our last session, change management, and why we're focused on the human aspects, is that change management theoretically and by the book really just kind of goes into tactics, tips, and tools, right? Well, we're going into the people aspects here. And this whole series is going to focus on the people aspects. How do we connect around that, okay? And get really comfortable in it and actually get super energized by it, because this is where you are going to accelerate change in your organization and in all other parts of your life, all right? So leaders, when they're on point, they have a deep sense of purpose and an authentic passion about what they envision. what they know is possible. And that's what we're tapping into. They're committed to the vision and they can inspire others to imagine what's in it for them. All right. So this is, if you want to grab a screenshot, as I mentioned, in other sessions, I'll give you these little spots. So here, grab a screenshot of this one. This is a great one to keep in front of you, to keep you energized as you're on your change curve. Okay. So you know what you're out to create. All right. Let's go ahead and kind of summarize this. The fact is that we diminish the potential of our vision and we actually stall change because of fear. Fear, uncertainty, doubt. We actually diminish what's possible. And we slow down the pace of change as a result. Now, fear often gets disguised as things like investigation, research, creating alignment before we move, getting agreement, everyone on board before we take action. Okay. Some of you may relate to the term analysis paralysis, which is only fear and deadly. It will diminish your vision. It will diminish what you're capable of achieving. It will diminish and stall your organization. So this is where action becomes important. Leverage is key. Start with your leadership. And that's where you can actually start to create what I'm going to call a moonshot. So from that standpoint, you're able to establish a bold statement of the change, a moonshot, what's possible, and have the courage to say it, have the courage to start moving toward it. Get your leadership talking in this language. This is what we're going for. And let's deal with the fear, the uncertainty, the doubts, the concerns. Let's be real. Let's really deal with those things. Get them out of the way. Because once you move through that part of the change curve, the moonshot, no question. Don't know how we're going to get there, but by golly, we're going to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade. Boom. It's out there. Now let's go figure it out. And let's coalesce. I don't know if anyone is fascinated in this space. I've been doing more reading around the moonshot and the 1960s and putting a person on the moon. I just find it fascinating that we haven't, since at that point in time, we have not put a person on the moon since. And the amount of time and resource and money and effort that went in coalescing an entire nation around making this happen. And we have similar money, a smaller group of people working off in corners of the world right now, trying to put another person back on the moon again, not getting there. This is the kind of vision that you want to create for your organization. And when your leaders do this, remember, your job is to coach them. Okay? We can't sit back passively as change management agents or change management professionals. We cannot sit back passively and say, well, my CEO just doesn't get it. Or, we've got this opportunity and he or she says that that's what they want, but things aren't changing. Guess what? It's our job. That's our job to go coach them, build that relationship, starting there. Okay? You're bought in. You've got the vision. Now go enroll them in that vision. Coach them to get there. And then they become a voice. And then the next person you coach and they become a voice. And then the next person in the leadership team, they become a voice. They get bought in. They go through their change cycle. They get bought in. Next thing you know, you've got a whole leadership team that's bought in. And they start getting other people bought in. They're going to model the way that you coach them. They're going to model that for their teams. All right? Okay, you can tell I'm passionate about this. This is such an important piece. I'm so excited that you're on this certification journey with me. So let's talk about a few of the best practices, okay? So I want you to take this away. So first of all, change leadership requires, I'm going to call, a magnificent degree of courage, all right? That's why I put moonshot out there, right? It's just a really bold ass statement. This is where we're headed, all right? Having the courage to do that. And what that looks like is that our leaders, we want them to embrace the new approaches first. They need to go through their change curve first or be well on their way in dealing with their stuff and being authentic about it. So recognizing that When you're leading change in your organization and you are passionate about what you're creating, your new BPM, this environment of process improvement, this environment of continuous improvement, a culture where people are engaged, you want to create that. It's a culture that impacts productivity and performance and profit and the people that are in the organization. You want to create that. You've got to be bold in your statement. You want to get buy-in, get your leadership, your leverage is at the top. Accept that your leaders are human as well. They will have their own personal change to navigate, and they will go through cycles of it. You get to coach them on that. Be on the eye, be on the lookout for it, be the eagle eye, all right? Support them by helping them appreciate where things currently are, okay, where the gap is, all right? So that then they can stand strong with a consistent message, a consistent drumbeat into the organization. Here's where we're headed, here's why. Here's the benefit. Here's what's in it for you. Here's what's in it for me. Here's what's in it for us. So consistently they can deliver that message and the benefits of what that future state's going to bring. So get clear on what are the benefits of a continuous improvement environment. What are the benefits, the true benefits of business process management, of BPM, of process improvement? All right? What are the true benefits from a human aspect? Okay, that's what we want to tap into. And you'll know it. When you hit it, boom, you're going to know it. All right. So it's important also to acknowledge the time and effort that people put into creating where things currently are. This is an important key. So jot this down. You want to acknowledge the time and effort that people put into creating where things are currently. I had a CEO once who came into an organization. I'll give you a little context here. The company itself was probably about 40 years old at that point, had had 2 CEOs prior. The first CEO, the founding CEO, had actually been with the company for about, so I guess it was about 30 years. The second CEO had been there for about 6 years. And there were some pretty substantial changes and programs and initiatives that took place in the organization. Initiatives at the level that engaged everyone in the organization. And there was some powerful output as a result. Now, did it get the company entirely to where they wanted to go? From a revenue standpoint, from a profitability standpoint? No. It moved the needle, but it didn't get us all the way there. So a new CEO was brought in. A fatal flaw, a fatal error that CEO made, and it took him 6 months to recover. That was 6 months of lost time. A fatal flaw was that in one of his very first all-hands meeting in front of the entire company, he made a statement that all of the work that had been done in the last 6 years was completely for naught. It was a waste of time, were his words. Imagine a company, and they were about 30,000 employees at the time. The entire company had been putting their energy toward these initiatives, very visible initiatives. And he made that statement. Can you imagine the deflation that took place, the demoralization that took place? And again, it was not that the changes or the things that had been put in place got the results, the full intended results. There were so many other ways that CEO could have made that statement. He came out and said that it was all for naught. It took him 6 months to recover from that and to reestablish himself as a credible leader in the organization. So I emphasize this point because when we're talking about our leaders and helping them be successful at the top, to then drive change and create a continuous improvement culture, we want to make sure that our leaders are well coached to acknowledge that there's been a lot of time and a lot of effort that people have put into creating where things are currently. And it's not all bad. The point is that we're actually going for a new vision, a new moonshot. And we've got our starting point. We want to build on morale. All right. So hopefully that really just kind of drives it home for you. You can take away that story and reflect in your own organizations now around that. So the key is not working is very different than, quote, bad. You want to watch your own language here. You want to watch your CEO's language. You want to watch your leadership team's language and coach them on this language. All right. So not working, that is neutral. Bad, you don't want to go there. Reflect back on the CEO story I shared with you just a moment ago. All right. So your job as a change management professional is to give them the tools and the language to help enroll others and it themselves in a vision of what's possible. That's your primary job. I will land it and leave it with effective change leadership is going to begin with you, the change manager, giving your leadership the tools to deliver the message, which is often starting out with your message of change, and to be able to do that consistently and repeatedly. This is the foundation of effective change management. And this is the spot where I absolutely want you to be wildly successful in here. And I am available to be a sounding board for you, to provide any coaching, anything that you'd like. I'm free to just be that sounding board. Feel free to reach out. It looks like we have one quick question here. And nice. Okay, so this is a reflection back on the story that I shared with you, the CEO that actually put himself 6 months in the hole. And what contributed to that? So who let him go out with that message? So great question. This is an excellent point where, as a change management professional, part of our responsibility is also to acknowledge where we are in our own change curve, okay? And in this particular case, as we kind of did a debrief and did what we call a corkscrew, which is kind of what worked, what didn't work, and drill in, right? So when we did that, what came out was that his own, what they call it, handler, so his own handler, the person, the communications person that was his side person, actually was resisting the change themselves. They were actually in a spot where they were still shocked that the CEO switch had happened. They were feeling and questioning the state of things, and in that they were blind to their own path, or blind to where they were on their own change curve. And as a result, when they were crafting all the key messages for the CEO to deliver in that all hands meeting, they actually completely missed the point of acknowledging where people were at in terms of the momentum and the level of commitment that had been taking place. They completely missed it. And they realized that it was as a result of where they were in their own change, in a space of on the curve. Remember, there's the space of denial, that they were actually in denial as well, and hadn't stepped back to realize that. And so their messaging, what they had shared, was unclear. Very, very, very powerful message for all of us as change management leaders. Thank you for joining me. Next week's topic, let me give this to you real quick. What we are going to do is start, again, kind of cascading through the organization. So our next piece is around involving every layer of the organization, and what does that look like? And so we are going to talk a little bit about how we engage every layer of the organization, how we cascade change through the organization as well, and leveraging even generational differences. So there's a superb way here to be able to leverage that. Here's my contact information. Please feel free to reach out anytime. You can email me directly at diana@pendolinogroup.com or at info@pendolinogroup.com. I am yours, available to you. If you want a sounding board, anything along those lines, please just give me a call. Always happy to help out. And I look forward to you joining me for our next session. Thanks so much, and have a wonderful day.